There we go.
Yay! We are live again, everybody. My goodness, what a day it has been. Your ears have been buzzing with the vibrations of the internet, just talking the word gifted. You have not got tinnitus. You have got gifteditis, because it's just been insane how much stuff has been happening today. And we started this morning going live on Amazon. The book was available in Canada, in the United States, and in the UK, possibly even other countries. And people have been buying the books. They got up in the morning, made the oatmeal and bought Gifted, and it's making a huge difference. And Paul's got his finger on the Amazon pulse, and he's looking at categories and stats. And numbers aside, we're here for a reason. We're here to tell you that there is a book that has been launched today. It's called Gifted. You can buy it today on readgifted.com/buy. I'm going to be saying that in my sleep tonight. But let me introduce you to the team, this afternoon's team. I have Paul Carter, who is one of the co-authors, very famous man in the state of Idaho. We have Kim Griffiths, aka Kim Sykes, depending on whether she's Batwoman or Catwoman, in her alter ego. Just bear with me. In the beautiful state of Colorado. And we have Mr. Brian Mertzok, I say that right?
Yep.
Is the illustrator of the book. And one of my favorite illustrations, and I'll just give people a very, very sneak peek. Oh, not that one. Well, that is one of my favorites too, but specifically, because there's a character in the book called Jerry, and everybody's like, oh, I wonder who Jerry is. I don't have any idea what Jerry looked like until this very moment, when you see that Jerry is...
That's him for sure. I recognize that face.
Jerry has a diner. I don't know why people have never hired octopuses or octopi before, because they could so many arms to serve people, but this is the kind of thing that Brian has been creating. So Brian, welcome to the tribe today.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be with you guys and to join you. And I'm really excited about how well the book has been doing. Appreciate all of the support, and I love working with you. So I appreciate being here with you.
Brilliant. And it used to be that the world was only, 6 degrees of separation. And with the internet and social media, we've probably gone down to 2 or 3.
That's right.
I'm sure people would love to know, just how did you land the most incredible, fun job of illustrating a book like this? And Mr. Paul Carter might just have an insight into that.
I can give insight into that. So when we signed on with our publisher, we included that we wanted an illustration at the beginning of each chapter in our book. And when it got to the time to work with an illustrator, they kept sending us draft after draft after draft, and Kim and I would just get with each other, and we hated to say it, but it's like, no, this isn't it, this isn't it. And we kind of talked about this earlier, but Kim and I have known these characters for 2 years. We know who they are, we know everything about them, and we knew what they looked like. We had got online and we had pictures from stock photography so that we could see who our characters were. So we knew exactly what they looked like. We sent this stuff to the publisher, and we tried to share this with the illustrators that they were using, but it just wasn't working. They were either too juvenile looking or too cartoonish, or it just wasn't right. And one day I was telling my wife about this, and she asked me if I would consider using someone I knew to illustrate the book. And just as fast as I told Kim I would write the book with her, I told her no. And she said, why? And I said, well, because I don't want to have to tell someone I know that I don't like their work, because we hadn't been having good luck. And so he kind of dropped it, but she sent me a text with a picture. And it was a picture that Brian had drawn, and Brian is my brother-in-law. And when I saw the picture, I was like, oh man, that's a really good picture. You know, it was, he had drawn for his boy, and it was like some morphed animal, like a buffalo / bear or something. And so I saw that and I thought, okay, well, there's potential here. So I think the next day I called Kim and I was like, okay, what would you think of this? And she was on board. So then I called Brian. I'm like, what would you think of this? And he was on board. And that's how it came about that we hired Brian.
I like the hired. This is a friends
Yeah.
and family right here.
Yeah, he got the friends and family discount where he donated the illustrations.
Yeah. And
I don't
actually,
think, Brian, you knew what you were letting yourself in for, because this
yeah,
is
I
a
actually,
story.
yeah, I had grown up as a child watching Disney cartoons, and we all fall in love with the animation from Disney. But one of my childhood dreams was to someday be an animator. And so when Paul asked me, it was like, without hesitation, I would love to contribute. Additionally, Paul and Nicole have just done so much for our family that it was there's nothing you can ask me to do that I wouldn't do for you guys. So I really did appreciate the opportunity. And I know Paul's standard and Kim's standard is very high, and I love that. You kind of want to match skills with those who have similar standards and expectations. And I love the fact that this was going to be a quality book, that it was going to help individuals, and it was going to help us realize that this life is our opportunity to really establish our gifts and really move our potential forward. And so all of those things came together, and I was like, I can't think of a better thing to be involved in. And I was so excited. So I really do appreciate it. So,
And then literally, I mean, you get 6 characters in high school, all just having lunch, and boy, at this point, did they know what they were letting themselves in for, right?
right.
And it's probably the same for you. Did you know what you were letting yourself in for? Wow.
Well, what was fun about this book is that they released it to me in chapters. So I got the experience of the teenagers. You know, I wasn't aware of what happened start to finish. So as we were working on chapter number 1, I wasn't sure about what was happening in chapter 5. And so Paul and Kim had very succinct ideas of what they wanted, which was very helpful. Because as an illustrator, and if there's any young illustration or artists out there that are watching this, I want to highly encourage you to get to follow through with those desires, because those are skill sets that you've been blessed with that not everybody has. And so for some are given the opportunity to write. And they wrote the book in such a manner that the illustration came out in a certain way. And then we had to hone it and change it and work on it. And slowly but surely we got it to where we loved it. We absolutely loved it. And it just came so naturally available because the authors knew exactly what they wanted. Right. And that's not to say we didn't run into what's called, you know, creative blocks, or what they commonly refer to in literature as writer's block. But we obviously worked through that. We critiqued one another, and we helped each other to try to get to the point where each illustration was satisfactory and we could move forward. So I'm really excited that chapter 1, we get to see these characters right off the bat, and you get to develop. But me, myself, to answer your question, it was very much like that. It was like being a character in the book as I walked and read through the book. So it was really fun and rewarding. So
that is awesome, isn't it? That is awesome. And actually, a lady called Tara is in the group, and she already bought today. So yay, thank you, Tara.
Oh, hi, Tara. My friend Tara. Hi.
That is awesome. So I knew that you guys met every Friday morning early to talk about how the plot was developing, you know, where you're drawing. I had the privilege of being a fly on the wall one Friday morning with a gag order from Kim.
A fly on the wall.
Yeah.
You can join, but you're not allowed to say anything.
Jonathan does not follow instructions.
like every good professional.
What did I say? But it was wonderful to just watch. And I saw some of the other videos that Kim and Paul had shared of just how each drawing was developing. And I mean, you sum up the whole chapter in one image, and it's remarkable. And I've seen other books, and not an illustration to be seen. And I think it's such great value because we all have this mind images we're reading, and this really helps center you at the beginning of each chapter to sort of let you know what might be coming. It's fantastic.
Well, you know, Kim and I were very organized, and so before we even met with any illustrator, we had mapped out what we thought would be an appropriate illustration for each chapter. And one of the things that was really great about working with Brian is that he brought completely different ideas to the table. And he lent a perspective that, you know, we're artistic in the sense that we're creative writers, but not in the sense of illustrating. And so one day he said to us that as an illustrator, one thing that is really important is to try and capture an image that you cannot take a picture of.
Mhm.
And so we thought about that, and you know, if you're drawing something, you have that creative ability to really go. Like I remember Brian gave the example of an elevator in space. Like that's something you wouldn't be able to take a picture of, you know. And so we actually modified and changed things as we worked with him, and it was a fun process. And Kim has some good stuff about just working with Brian and that perspective and kind of just total different things that he brought to the table and things that almost inspired us to change certain things.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. And you know, speaking of change, I mean, Kim, you know, when we talked about the book this morning with Balcazar, and you were just saying that this was the book that you wish you had when you were a mom and your children were little, and now it was the right time for you to write, which was now. But there's a lot of children out there today who are on the gaming machines, sort of in the mall, on the iPads, not reading good fiction and not even getting the teaching that we got as children from our grandparents. And I truly think that this book is paving a way to reset the minds of a whole generation.
Well, it really is. And the thing that has been so amazing to me, for which I am so grateful, is, you know, Paul and I are both connected to education. And we have had schools already approach us and say, I want this book for the library, because there is a lack of quality reading material for kids of younger ages, you know, through junior high and high school. And librarians and schools have a very tough time finding good reading material for their schools. So we know of a few schools already that will have our book in their library, and we are currently thinking of many creative ways that we can provide books to libraries all over the country.
That is quite something, isn't it? Yeah, there's a legacy piece to this, which goes beyond fiction and self-help. I mean, you are literally potentially, you know, changing the footprint of a teenage, and not just teenagers, but teenagers on upwards generationally. So that is, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it has been suggested that any child who can read at a fifth grade level, fifth grade and up, could easily handle this book. And I've had other teachers who have told me that if they were in a classroom with younger than fifth grade, they would read the book to their class. So it doesn't have to be limited. And we're finding that people of all ages are interested and enthusiastic about this book.
No kidding. So, I mean, Kim, obviously your daughter's way past sort of being called a child anymore, but Brian, you're the man with the younger children of the four of us here. I mean, you must be really excited for them to learn this message too.
I definitely am. As a father, as any parent would, you want the very best for your children. and you seek that. You seek after those types of resources. And often in the environment we live in, it's not readily available. And so this actually, and I kind of hinted at this when I started reading this a chapter at a time. And what I found myself doing is changing my mindset, changing my reality, taking into practice the very lessons that the characters were developing as the story went through. And I highly encourage this for any teenager that's looking to develop. Sometimes they can grow up in an atmosphere where there's not necessarily the productiveness or the necessary resources to help them develop an appreciation for what they have to offer that's unique in the world. And this book can help them draw that out. It definitely can do that. As an adult, it happened with me as well. So
Yes.
I would highly encourage it for all ages. I really would. And I'm not just saying that simply as, a contributor. I'm saying that as a parent as well. So I really look forward to the stories that come about from this book and
Yes.
how it maybe has changed or helped somebody out. So we're eager to hear those stories. So please share those with us.
Tara is saying that her daughter is in 3rd grade. Let's get it in her school.
That's
Do it.
Maybe they could have you go and read, Kim. Wouldn't that be something?
Well,
be great.
Paul has already received an invitation from a school for the three of us, Brian, Paul, and I, to go and talk about this very issue. So we're pretty excited about that
is
too.
awesome. That is awesome. So, Brian, you have a gift of illustration. Obviously, Paul and Kim have a gift of writing. But I think what all of us have been given is a gift of expanding our imagination, right? When I look at this book and I look at what Bob Proctor wrote, and we read this out this morning, but he said, let me just bring it up because it's so important. Bob talked about that he's been studying for years all of the different things in his library about the subject of the mind and thought and universal thoughts. And he said in over half a century, like 50 plus years, I've taught people how to change their minds and get the results they're looking for. And as you said this morning, Paul, one of Bob's phrases is, if you can see it in your mind, you can feel it in your hand, and proof right here. And you guys have done that. It's like, I feel like Buddy the Elf when he goes to New York and he goes in that little diner again. Congratulations, world's best cup of coffee. Way to go! But you did.
Great reference.
You've actually created a book with illustrations, and it's out there, and it's already really high in a lot of categories, Paul, right?
Yeah, we are, like right now it shows it at number 4 in the science fiction and fantasy category, number 5 in mysteries, and number 15 in mythology. So
think about it. Number 4 in science fiction, right?
yeah.
Let's just think about how many books there are in America right now, and you're ranking number 4 in sales.
Mhm. There are on average 1,000 books a day published.
Our publisher told us that there are 30,000 books in the literature fiction genre, that it is the most crowded genre.
It is awesome. Even Cindy says that is awesome. We agree.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, what we want people to just enjoy the read and hope that they get changed. But we want to do something back for you. So we want to help you become international best-selling authors. So our friends in Canada, I'm in Canada, our friends in the United Kingdom, we've encouraged so many people to go out and actually buy the book on Amazon today. They can buy the Kindle version, or they can buy the actual soft copy itself. And all you have to do is go to readgifted.com/buy. I will put some links in the Facebook group here in a second because there's different links to Amazon and so on. But that's all we need people to do. And then we're going to impact the world, and we're going to get you guys a title that not many people have. And I think that's pretty important that this effort is recognized. So way to go.
We're really close, Jonathan. The results that we get on Amazon, they're not real time or anything, but we're 29 we're 29 slots away from international status.
29
international
slots.
bestseller. So Canada, come on,
Great.
Canada.
That's great.
Bet. So in the Facebook page, as we're talking, just carry on talking among yourselves. I'm going to put some links actually into the Facebook page for each of the three Amazon links that people will need. So when Facebook lets me, I'll carry on with that. But Kim,
Okay.
I want to ask you another question while we're here, because this isn't the first book that came into your head, is it?
No, no, this is not the first book. No, you know, my original idea, and the one that I got several ideas for books, and actually those ideas sit on my desktop and I look at them almost every day. But the one that I was really thinking was important was to write a children's book on gratitude. And Paul agreed to write a book with me, and Nicole, who shared with Paul when they were talking about writing Paul and I writing a book, Nicole said to him something about ordinary children doing extraordinary things. And Paul shared that comment from Nicole with me, and it really got me thinking. And I was in the car one afternoon helping a friend of mine move, and I got the idea for Gifted, and I called Paul and I said, what do you think of this? And just like when he said, yes, I'll write that book with you, he says, yes, that's the book we should write. So that's the book we wrote. So we still have to write a children's book on gratitude, but that's for another time.
That'll come. That'll come. I have no doubt about that. Wow. And then I heard rumor this morning, and Brian was salivating about this, about a sequel.
There is a sequel, yes.
There has to be a sequel. I as an instant fan, I need a sequel. So
And then it could even be a prequel.
that's right.
There is a prequel. In fact, Paul and I had a discussion as to which do we write first, the prequel or the sequel.
We've had lots of discussion.
Well, in your discussions with George Lucas, let's just see what he says.
Well, and I'll tell you, those handful of people who have had the privilege of reading the book in advance of launch have been hounding us for the sequel.
Yeah, because there's so much more to say.
Kim has been hounding me to write this sequel. And
Yes.
I had to be mean, and I had to say no. I said, Kim, we cannot write the sequel until this book is out. You don't realize how much there is to publishing a book besides writing it. One of our mentors, her name is Peggy McCall, and she's a New York Times best-selling author, and she helped us tremendously throughout this program and throughout this process. And she said one time that when you have your book written, she's like, congratulations, you have 5% of the work done. And I remember listening to that thinking, oh, that is just such garbage. Like that, I don't believe that one bit, but it's so true. It is. We spent longer doing all the other stuff than we did writing the book. So, and some of that stuff would be easy to put off and not want to do. So that's why I was like, no, we got to get this book out before we start. So Kim and I, we work in this, we have an online, web-based project management system. And we have everything for the sequel laid out on their ideas and scenarios. And so when we're ready to start, everything's right there ready for us.
There's a lady in
Well,
the
I
chat
have
named- I'm sorry, Kim.
I have to tell you a secret though, because while Paul says he was mean and said, no, we're not writing the sequel, I was kind and I didn't write it without him.
There's a lady in the chat by the name of Lynn, who you might know quite well, Paul, and says, yes, we need the sequel.
Yes,
But don't you disobey your mom.
that's right. We don't do that.
He wouldn't even give the book to his mom. I
There's a funny
threatened to
story
go
about
behind
that.
his back and give it to her.
Paul got the very first copy in the mail, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because these books are dated, and my book was dated September 1, but your book is dated August 30th. So I think Paul has the very first copy off the press. And I heard a rumor that your mom came to visit, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
and I showed her the book, and I had it sitting on my counter, and she was showing me something. She had a bag, and she just slipped the book in the bag to take it home. And I was like, hey, I need that.
you gotta love it.
The same thing happened when I showed the book to my grandma. She grabbed it, and she's like, oh, is this my copy? And I was like, no, actually, I need that.
Oh, you're brave.
Yeah,
You're brave.
yeah.
How do
Everybody
you
can have
say
a
no
copy
to your
today, right?
grandma?
I know, I really did need it.
Yeah. I mean, I've held this book with I always feel like I go to bed with this book right now. We've been working on it, but Michelle wants to know, when did you tell your mom that you were writing the book for?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't tell people for a while. I did tell my family before I told other people, but I don't remember exactly when I told my mom, but I have a funny story about my brother. My youngest brother, in one of the chapters, we wrote something about a motorcycle, and I don't ride motorcycles, but my brothers do. And so I texted him one night and I asked him about shifting on a motorcycle, trying to verify if you kick it down or if you click it up, you know? And he answered my question. I was like, oh, thanks. I just needed to know that for the book. And he's like, what book? And I'm like, the book I wrote. And he's like, what? You wrote a book? And I'm like, where have you been?
In fact, I'm reading the chat. Your mom says it was almost finished before you told her.
Okay. All right. Well, that doesn't surprise me. You know, it was a little, there's some fear in this. Like, when you set out to do something really big, even though my family's always been supportive, I mean, there's reservations in putting it out there, what you want to do. And I wrote a blog about that because it really is a real thing. Like, when you're taking on something that's so big and you don't want to fail, you know, it's when you put it out there, it just makes it so much more real, you know? And I experienced that a lot during the process of writing this. When I told people I was writing, when we launched our Facebook page, that was a real moment of fear for me, where it was like, oh my gosh, this is real, this is out there. It's not just my family now that's going to know this, it's others, you know. But it's interesting how that fear does affect you, you know. Now, I don't let it keep me from doing what I want to do, but it is a real emotion.
Totally. And obviously we know you're a photographer, Paul. Some of your work is behind you. You have a family history in the country of Croatia, I should say. So we all come with a story. And then Kim, I mean, obviously you come with a story too, because what I loved is I remember you saying to me one day, I have a brand. I have a website. We have a Facebook page. But what I loved most, and I'll never forget you telling me this, Kim, was that you were saying it was one day there was a scenario in the book, and it was to do with Peter's locket. I can say that now. And I won't tell you what the story is, but it was like, how do we conclude this? And then something happened and you went, I know how to do this. And then you created the scenario and you said, that day I realized I was an author.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you have the power of the written word, and anything goes when it's your book, right?
Anything goes. I could do whatever I wanted. And so I thought about all the different options. Like, it doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to be, believable or real or any of that. And so I thought, what do I want to do? And I finished the chapter and I sent it to Paul. And the best thing, the very best thing that could have happened, Paul read the chapter and he said, wow, I did not see that coming. And I thought, oh, good.
That's amazing, isn't it? I tell you, there are so many twists and turns in this book. I needed to go meditate halfway through some of these chapters. I thought, they're all going to die. That's it. Funny, Michelle is talking about the darn terror barrier, but these characters went through amazing terrors in this book, and yet they all came out the better for it. And that's what I love about what you've done here. Is you've taken this universal teaching of Bob Proctor that thousands and hundreds of millions maybe of people have heard over the 58 years that he's been teaching it. And these principles that are kind of hard to wrap your brain around in some way, you put into a fictional story that just like, oh my gosh, yes, I get it now. And I think you've given a gift to the world that as much as Bob's teaching was so solid, it's heavy stuff. And I'm not logical. I have a bit of a left brain thing going on, but the right brain's huge. But now I get it. And I got it because of the fictional story that you created around that. So, yay! We have like 14 people watching us right now. This is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We are just telling everybody about the launch of the book Gifted, which came out today on Amazon in Canada, United States, in United Kingdom. And if you'd like to buy it, we would love that. So let me tell you some incentives that Kim and Paul have put together, because we're getting so excited about the story. We want to tell people about some bonuses that came about with this. So every single person that buys a book, Paul is sending a pair of socks. No, sorry. That was this morning. You missed that. We're talking about Dobby and the free elf and the sock that Harry gave him. But no, seriously, everybody that gets the book gets a chance to be a part of the book by understanding the 6 characters and finding out who you are most like. So there's Charlotte and Emily and Katie and Peter and James and Sydney, and they're very different people. I mean, they are real. I can't wait for the Hollywood casting couch to have 6 people sitting there ready to make this movie. It's going to be like Stranger Things. It's going to be fantastic. But to get to know those characters, Paul and Kim have created this quiz, and we're going to send you, when you buy the book and you put so go to readgifted.com/buy, put in the tracking number of the book, not that we don't trust you. We're not checking. It's all on an honor system. But we will send you an email with a link to a quiz. And then just by putting some real-time scenarios, whether you'd like to go to the mall, whether you'd like to go to the park, whether you'd rather eat a burger or a filet mignon or whatever it might be, at the end of this very intuitive quiz, you're going to find out if you're a Peter or a Charlotte or a Katie. It's fantastic. So everybody that buys the book gets that. That is it. But if you would like to buy 5, emphasis on the number 5, then have we got a gift for you. So Paul, would you like to tell them about the gift if you buy 5 copies?
Sure. So about a month ago, we did an imagination challenge and it was 5 days. We did some activities every day, just encouraging people to really use their imagination and kind of let it go wild. We had really good feedback and response from that. And so what we did is we created a journal. It's an imagination journal. And I think there's, it doesn't correspond to a month or anything, but I think there's 37 entries in there. And each day it gives you a tip on the imagination, and it gives you an activity. We kind of extended that activity from the challenge, and it is really just designed to encourage you to spark, ignite, and use your imagination. But this one, as we progress through the journal, we actually try to focus it more so that you can maybe use it for something that you really want, something that might benefit you in your life right now, something that you've always wanted. And that was kind of the feedback at the end of the Imagination Challenge, the 5 days, was this was awesome. Now what? You know? And so that's it's kind of a continuation of that. But it's just a fun, it's definitely fun. Gives you some spots where you can journal or you can draw, whatever, you know, if you're more like Brian, if you're more artistic, you can just draw what you want instead of writing it. So gives you that leeway.
And this is 37 pages long, people. I mean, this is something you could literally buy off the shelf. It's that good. And it's, as a PDF, it's full color. You can do it for grayscale if you prefer, and then print it out. And there's lines for writing, there's blank pages for drawing, there's challenges and tasks and motivational pieces all the way through it. And that's a gift that nobody can get. You literally just have to buy 5 books and it's yours as a gift. Fantastic. So thank you for that. And thank you for everything you've done to inspire this community all of this year. I mean, I'm inspired, my team's been inspired. I mean, we have a girl on her class in our I'll bring Brian back in a second here because he'll appreciate this. One of our team, her name is Paige. And she's a very, very shy, introvert, super creative young lady. And she is an illustrator for our company. And we assigned her the task of getting to know the book Gifted and to start drawing and writing some of the extra pieces like the Facebook cover page and the Imagination Guide and the Imagination Journal. And I know that of everybody in our team, I think Kim has a soft spot for somebody and not me. She sometimes tells me to give Paige my chair and I sit in a smaller chair. I mean, seriously, this book has reached out to so many people on so many levels, and Paige's work it was always amazing, but it is now quantumly amazing on anything that she's created from Gifted. It's just like, you did that. It's that good because what you've done and the way they're writing and learning about you is so inspiring, even a millennial generation. Right? Kim, thank you for that.
Well, you're so welcome. You know, it's just an honor. Paul and I have talked about how really divinely inspired this was, that this didn't come from inside of us, but we were just the instrument for the written word. It's like it was floating around in the ether, just waiting to be organized into the pages. And we were the organizer of the pages. And, you know, not like it even, like we had much to do with it. And I don't mean to minimalize it, but, you know, I've heard other great writers say that they are just the instrument for the written word, that the book actually comes somewhere from outside of themselves. And that's absolutely the way it felt for me and Paul.
Yeah. And Kim, Marjorie Lee says, congratulations.
Oh, Margie, hi, good to see you.
And Cindy's like right there with real emotion, loving the transparency and saying, well said, Kim. You've got some lovely friends out there. That's great. So I want to bring Brian back in because he's took time away from his office here. And, you know, the fact that you two knew each other from possibly high school, I think you said, Brian, and how this has all come together. I mean, yeah, and you know, one of the other people we have to thank for this coming together, obviously, is Bob Proctor and Peggy McCall, because you were both mentoring under Bob. You heard Peggy speak on stage. She talked about what it's like to be an author and how to be a New York Times bestselling author. And I know you worked with Peggy. You worked with Peggy's sister, I think it is, Judy. Mm-hmm. And she's helped you on this publishing journey. I mean, talk about wheels within wheels. And then meeting me. I mean, Kim, we have physically met. I've never met Paul in real life, although I feel like I know him. Same with Brian, but Kim and I did meet in LA at one of Bob's events. But even the way we met Kim was because of a referral from another friend in Proctor Gallagher, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
it's just
wow, this was meant to be.
You know, Steve Jobs said that you can't connect the dots looking forward. You have to connect them looking back. And sometimes you just don't realize when a dot drops in front of you. And Paul and I have spoken about this many times because I met Paul virtually before I ever had an idea to write a book. And we were in a mastermind group together. And I am convinced that that came together, that relationship was created in that mastermind because God knew that I needed a collaborator. And the same thing with our mutual friend who referred us to you, Jonathan, that I didn't know that I was going to need you. I kind of thought that I might, but I got a referral for you long before we ever came to you. And, you know, it's just like you can look back and you can see the circumstances lining up and the resources dropping into place before you even know that you need them. You know, it's not a coincidence. Nothing happens by coincidence. It is not a coincidence that Brian is Paul's brother-in-law. It's just not, you know.
All that architectural training for a lifetime of drawing, Brian, came to fruition.
That's right. That's right. It's been really fun. And to Kim's point and Paul's point, it's interesting because as you go throughout the creative process, you can hit roadblocks. And I'm basically communicating this to anybody who has a desire to be an author or an illustrator or whatever your desire is. This book can help you overcome those roadblocks as you go throughout the process, the grind, if you will. There's parts where you just have to grind through life and it's difficult and it's strenuous. But as you push forward, you start to see the way break through. The sunlight comes through the day and you're shown the way that it's supposed to come about. And so this book is very much that process for 6 very keen teenagers. We tend to underestimate these teenagers. And as parents, I appreciate that now with 4 boys. But as you start to see them develop, their growth is so rapid and so quick. And as they grow up, you know, obviously, and I can't wait to see what these 6 teenagers do throughout high school and throughout. But as they continue to develop, it will just be fun. It's fun to actually fall just in, you know, and have that sort of kindness for them, because we all know these teenagers in real life, or we've all been a teenager in real life, and we understand how hard it is. If we could go back and do it again, there's surely things we would change. But also this is going to encourage that out of you as an adult as well. And that's what I'm so happy for. I'm so excited for. And the writing does that. And I think that to their point and what they're communicating to you today is the fact that it will help any and all ages to really realize, you know, we're traveling right now at 36,000 miles per hour around the sun. And yet today we call that Tuesday, you know, and we say, well, we can't do it because it's Tuesday. It's not the weekend. Well, this book will change your mind. It will change your thinking as to who you can be, how you can make it happen, and how those certain, you know, roadblocks will be past memory at some point. So I'm really excited about it. Wow. And love the book. Absolutely love it.
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, it's just, I'm just looking at the chat room here. I mean, Lindsay's just joined us, who's one of our web designing team, and she's been involved right from the beginning. And Tara's saying, this is hitting home because I have a teenager too. Can't wait to read this book. Thank you for creating it. I mean, this whole gratitude piece is key in that. Bob talks about gratitude probably more than anything else, about being grateful and writing things down. And just reminded me of something, Kim. You don't read books. Kim even wrote a blog about why I don't read books, but why I had to write this book. I mean, against the odds, you still did it, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was your mom was a published author.
My mother. My mother wrote 2 books. Yeah. I guess it's genetic.
I think it's divine. You're absolutely right about that. It is divine, and that is so awesome. So folks, I'm the guy who has to keep reminding everybody here we're having way too much fun. We need to reach international best-selling status today. We're determined. We will not go to sleep until that number tells us. So if you are in Canada, if you're in the United States, if you're in anywhere in the world, I mean, God bless you. But specifically, if you are not in the United States, We need you to go to amazon.ca or .co.uk or .dz or whatever you might be. And just put in the word gifted, put in the word Paul Carter or Kim Griffiths, you'll find it. And buy the book. Just buy it. Because you're going to get a bonus, but B, you're going to expand your brain. You're going to have a great read. You're going to think of things differently for the rest of your life, seriously. And it's going to be incredible. Just incredible.
It is incredible.
I know a lot of people are going to be getting this book for Christmas. But wow, what a difference 2019 is going to become because of this. So I'm tempted to go a little bit deeper about the sequel, because there's a character in a book that we don't know a lot about. His name is Mason. Okay, I am totally off script here because I'm just, ugh.
Watch Kim's eyes.
I know. I know.
Watch Kim's body language.
Okay. There's two things in this book that I need to know, and I don't have the answers. One is, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And two is like, where did Mason come from? Now, you may not answer me, and that's okay.
That's
the sequel,
that's
I
the
hope,
prequel.
will answer at least one of those two questions. Because
so where Mason comes from is the prequel.
okay.
Ooh.
So we will tell Mason's story in the prequel.
Okay. And this thing, which is not a cookie, it's made of metal and it has sign language of some language on it, who knows what, that is instrumental to the beginning of the book. I mean, that's what sent them to the museum in the first place, right? And then it all unravels. So if you want to unravel just the first chapter, now you can. Originally, we did not want to do any reveals of the book. We wanted to keep it completely under wraps, but we did reveal each character. And every couple of weeks, we talked about Charlotte and Katie and Peter and James and Sydney and Emily, and we did a deep character reveal. And it was so interesting that Paul's mom, as a former school teacher, totally identified with each character. She knew a Charlotte. She knew a Sydney. We all do. It's so interesting when you do the quiz, you'll find out about that. But now, I mean, it's like Pandora's box. It's like, we need more.
I think that's one of the interesting things about this book is I think we did a really good job at describing our characters and creating each character to the point where I wasn't expecting that you know, my mom would say, oh my gosh, I taught that kid in class, you know, years and years. And so when we made those characters, you know, each one of them kind of has their own gift and their own strength that they contribute in the book, and that's magnified in the book. And when you're reading it, you tend to identify with different aspects of each character, but everyone that I've talked to tends to kind of gravitate and think that they're more like one character in particular. Mm-hmm. And we each had that, you know, in this process also. And that is, I think it was so fun to create this quiz. The quiz, it's called a quiz, but it's like the which Disney princess are you quiz. You know, that's what this is, you know, if you've ever taken one of those. So, and it tells you which one you're most like based upon that. And each one of us, when we took the quiz, we were not like the person that we identified with most from the book. No. And so it's kind of funny to just experience that even as a writer, you know, to create the characters and think that you're really like a certain character, and then you take your own quiz that you created and it's like, well, that's not true. But I think that it just goes to show that there's so much that we can identify with these characters. Everyone has traits, strengths and weaknesses that it's like, oh, I have that. Oh, I have that, you know, makes it fun.
Strengths and opportunities, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
So are we allowed to know who you actually came out as in the quiz, Paul?
Sure.
You came out as?
I came out as Peter. So, yeah.
I'm
Now, the
having a
interesting
hard
thing
time
is-
seeing that. I just don't see you as Peter, but okay.
I know. But the interesting thing is this quiz has no gender barrier. So you
No.
could end up not necessarily the same gender as who you are physically, and that's okay.
Right.
So
It's
Kim,
more
I
about
think-
the personality traits.
Yeah, I think Kim, you really wanted to be Charlotte, the redhead and the. But
Well, because there's a huge part of me that is Charlotte,
yeah,
you know, and as I see myself, I saw a lot of me in Charlotte, and I resonate with Charlotte a lot, and she's my favorite character. But no, I took the quiz and came out as James.
I thought I was going to be Sydney, 100%, but no. So Brian, I'll just 1 second. Brian, I don't know if you had a chance to do the quiz yet, but we'll be interested.
I did.
To see what happens to you.
Jonathan, I felt aligned with Sydney all the way. I thought that's got to be the person that I most like. And actually, as I took the quiz, it's funny because they ask you questions. Sometimes we have perceptions of who we are, and yet they're not the same perceptions that other people carry about us. You know, we could walk into a room and there's 5,000 different people with 5,000 different opinions. And so I thought about that, and I thought, I'm going to take this as honest as I possibly can. And actually came out one time as James, and then the other time as Sydney when I tapped into both different sides of my brain. So it was a really fun quiz. It was really fun, and I enjoyed it. So anyway.
Well, we've just had a message from Paul's mom that Paul and Peter does not surprise her. Well, Mom
Thank you,
just-
Lynn. That makes me feel better.
Think of Peter's positive aspects, right?
Yes, you bet. Yeah. So we talked about what's next. We've talked about prequels and sequels. What we're super interested in now is that in the next year, where this book is going to go. I mean, on stages, in libraries, in schools, on business forums, in boardrooms. This is it, you guys. This is your, I mean, Paul, this is your career going forward, right?
Yeah.
It's so exciting. And for you, Kim, I mean, you have a career, but you have a whole new chapter of life about to start, that third act, and as we often call it. And there's such a passion to speak and to talk to people and to just inspire them. And that's why you wrote this book, to inspire people to go the extra mile and really just encounter fear, to look it in the face and take that worry monster and just throw it away, because most of the things we worry about, they never happen.
Right.
They never happen. And, but then stuff happens in this book and it's like, whew, I need a cup of coffee. And I drink a lot of coffee. Oh, so as we're just coming up towards the end of our hour here, Kim and Paul, if there was one thing that you would like people to get out of this book, what would that be?
Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible.
I'll take that to the bank. How about you, Paul?
That's exactly what I was going to say when Peggy McCall wrote the afterword for our book, and she has a line that I love. She said that you could begin declaring that anything is possible and that you are possible. And I love how she worded that you are possible, because what that says to me is that I can do whatever I want. If I have a dream, if there's something that I really want to do, it's possible. And I think that is a great message from the book. And I think it sums it up perfectly.
It truly does. And Brian, I'm going to ask you too, as you know the book better than anybody else apart from these two almost. There's one thing that you could ask people to take away from this book. What would that be?
Oh, wow. There's so much there that I think the one resonating message is, Paul mentioned this earlier, and that is when you set off for something new, you will have inherent fears. There will be fears that you have. don't let those be the stumbling blocks. Work through those, put it out there in the universe, and try to get the help and assistance you need, and make that realization come true, because it is a possibility. It's happening right now in the world, and there's no reason you're not entitled to the same. So I would just words of encouragement for anybody who needs that or is feeling like they don't have divine gifts. You definitely do. You just need to realize what they are. And this process will help you do it. And that's why I'm excited to be a part of it. And I appreciate Paul and Kim bringing me in on this. And obviously the opportunity to realize my own dream of maybe someday being a 45-year-old illustrator. So
that is amazing. That's awesome. Wow, this is a ride, you guys.
Well, what about you, Jonathan? You read the book.
I need to hear from Jonathan.
Do you know, I think the biggest, oh man, now you got me. I think the biggest thing for me is I do foresee a lot of things going wrong, and I try and counter those things in my brain before they happen to make sure they don't. But the reality of it is this blind journey of faith. I mean, there's a character in the book called Balthazar who is representing the universe, and somehow all the way through the book, he's there. Nobody's going to fall off a cliff. No one's going to drown. No one's going to die, because he's looking after them. Sure, he's pushing their boundaries. He's giving them courageous acts of stoic bravery to overcome, but he's still there. And I think what it just said to me was, like, in this world, I mean, we're not alone. We are looked after. There was a plan. There was a purpose for us. Sure, the world is one big, hairy, scary place, but most of the things that we worry about never happen. And I just loved how many stories of overcoming. I mean, there was one character right at the end. It's like, can you just get it? And she did.
Finally.
And I love that about the book right to the end. It's, oh my gosh, finally. Woohoo! Whew. You know, the book could have finished 3 chapters earlier if you'd have got it right. You're going to love to read. You're going to love to read. So whether you're on amazon.co.uk, amazon.com, amazon.ca, it's free delivery with Prime. You can have it in your phone in minutes on Kindle. Just put in the word gifted, put in Paul Cotter, Kim Griffiths, you'll find it, either ebook or actual book, and it'll come to you within a couple of business days if it's going in the mail, or direct transfer through to Kindle. Kindle is just $7.99 in the US, $9.99 in Canada. Can't remember what it is in British pounds. They're all asleep now anyway, so it's okay. Please buy it. This isn't about the money. This is about making a difference. And I feel like Bob Geldof on Live Aid here, you know? Give me your money! But it's not about the money. It's about the difference. And just like Live Aid made a difference, a famine in Ethiopia back in 85. I'm going back. I watched Bohemian Rhapsody last week. This book is making a difference in 2020.
I watched it last night.
Sorry?
I watched it last night.
Fantastic film. There's certain things in life that make a difference, that create a turning point, and seriously, this is one of them. Oof. On that high, Paul Cotter, Kim Griffiths, Brian Murdoch, thank you so much for your time. We're going to be back again later on. We're going to go into Paul's closet and we're going to steal all his swag. We're going to go to Kim's garage and we're going to steal all her swag. And tonight, we're going to give away the farm. Well, maybe not the farm, all the horses, everything else. Because we want to bless a bunch of people to go out and buy this book and have some fun and go around saying, these are Paul Cotter socks. And this is Kim Griffiths' saddle. And this is Brian's MacBook.
That's right.
Oh my word, too fun. So folks, literally, go to buy gifted, go to readgifted.com/buy, go to the Facebook page, the Gifted Adventure Series. You'll see a link there for the UK, for Canada, for the United States. Buy a book, buy another one. Send it to a friend, buy it for a colleague. Stockpile for Christmas. I mean, when people get real books, and it's very tactile. I mean, the cover, it feels good. I mean, seriously.
It feels great.
It feels, look at it. I mean, this is the kind of book that just feels good before you even open it. And then when you see Brian's illustrations, I mean, talk about girl power. I mean, let me show you this one. Where is she? I won't tell you the name of the character, but you just got to see this picture. I mean, girl power. All those people in shining armor and gargoyles and dragons and I don't know what else is going on there, but that girl's kicking booty. So that's what it's all about. Overcoming and enjoying and reading this book at multiple different levels. I've read it 3 times, and each time I read it, it's like, did they change the script? Because you miss things, because there's so much going on. You can't physically take it all in, and the more you read it, like watching a movie, each time you find different pieces and where you're at, you know, in life, you know, it'll relate to different situations. So everybody, thank you for joining us. A lot of people stayed with us for a whole hour here. That's awesome. And we'll be back again tonight at 7 o'clock Mountain Time with some more stats, some more great news, some more giveaways from the swag bags of these 2 famous authors, best-selling authors, and soon to be international best-selling authors.
There you go.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us for this.
Sure, I love it. I love it. I encourage you to go out and buy the book. Think of those that absolutely you can bless through this book, and it will happen. And then, like I encouraged you before, come back and share those stories, because that is what feeds us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
And we're going to announce a contest at 7 o'clock tonight, 6 o'clock Pacific. I'm not going to tell you, but you have to be online, because this contest is so fun. Oh, you have to come back and listen. That's all I can say. All right, my friends of the internet, in the Zoom room here and Facebook Live, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again in a few hours with some news and updates and swag. Okay, bye everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Kim,
Thank
thank you.
you. Bye.
Bye.